As we fly towards the magnificent but abandoned hotel at Big Bell, let's get into a bit of history. Gold was first discovered around the turn of the last century, and for those of you who were born this century, last century was 1900. There was mining there up till about 1926, but it wasn't till the American company Premier Gold Mining decided to open up the gold mine that the town really started to boom. In those days, American companies did nothing by halves. They negotiated with the state government to build a railway line, and in 1936 the town of Big Bell was gazetted. The Big Bell Hotel was built with something like 300,000 bricks, which were actually made in the area at a kiln between Big Bell and Kew. Other than being very windy, it is a really fine day, and it's time to go and hunt down the old cemetery site that I found. There aren't any known graves here, but the cemetery is still a gazetted reserve. Just on the way to the cemetery site, I stumbled across this area where there's lots of tunnels left behind. Looks like a wash basin too, but someone's had a few shots at it. I'm on the northern section of the cemetery reserve. We came here a few years ago and put a marker in the centre of the cemetery. There are no known burials here, but our marker seems to have disappeared, and a new fence line has been put in that runs directly through the centre of the cemetery reserve. So I don't know whether I can get across to have a look and see if the marker's just on the other side. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Here is another old marker which corresponds almost exactly to the boundary at the southern side, and over here is a star picket which has been pulled out of the ground, and I used to mark my sites with a star picket and a little plaque on top. So I don't know whether someone's pulled this out of the ground, tossed it here and removed the plaque, who knows. I'll just keep looking to see if I find it. I'm fairly certain this is the star picket I've knocked in the ground. It's been pushed out with some sort of machinery because that's got a big bend in it. The aluminium plate I made for it's not around here that I can see. I'm a little bit disappointed because even though this cemetery wasn't used, it was still a part of our history. But this reserve, cemetery reserve, is still a state government reserve as a cemetery. And all this did was mark that location. Here's an example of prickly pear. There's a lot of prickly pear around Big Bell, but I think we've had some really dry years and all the ones in the town area have withered away. And this one doesn't look terribly healthy in its own right. Not sure what this little object is. Perhaps some sort of shaker. Each of the big town blocks consisted of 8 individual blocks on each street. And these concrete slabs conform to that. There are 8 in this row. So the way these concrete pads work, I believe, is that the first concrete block there is the step into the house, and the second one is where the kitchen or chimney would have been, and the house would have been built on a wooden floor and extended back there a little bit. And just to prove that, there's a couple of indents in the concrete, which I believe is where stumps were for the house itself. And on the corners and in the middle there are metal straps where there was probably posts to support a veranda. And this last section here, I believe, may have been like a laundry or something like that, or a wet room, because it seems to have been enclosed, or even perhaps a sleep out. And just around the corner, I found this morning, which was pretty interesting. Someone's gone to a fair bit of trouble to erect a cross, and on the dates, on the top of it is the 31st of the 12th, and I think it's 1930 something, and then the 6th of the 1st, 2018. And at a guess, I would suggest that is the birthday and the date of death of a person, but for the life of me, I can't make out that name. And it is perhaps Eddie, E-double-D-I-E, something, and the last letter is a K. No idea. And I don't know whether this is where his ashes were scattered and where he lived, or whether this is just where he lived. The really cool thing is there's a fair bit of work being done here to put all these little rocks in place to form a footpath, and then coming across this way, these big rocks have been placed here, and then another footpath over here. So I would suggest that this was around the edge of the house, and perhaps this was another step up into the house itself. This is an example of some sort of water catchment, so it doesn't spill into the rest of the concrete. There's a drain there and that raised lip. This looks like there was a step into a building that had some sort of concrete flooring, and then perhaps another veranda over there. An old concrete laundry tub. In all the years that we've come out to Big Bell, I don't believe I've ever seen this. Cement bathtub, and it's still in its place. For some reason, Big Bell has thousands and thousands of prickles all around the place. Some of the really nasty ones have several prongs on them. They're like a little ball with prongs all the way around it. But at a certain time of year, you get hundreds of double G's popping out. I don't know whether it's been brought in by sheep or whatever, but makes it pretty hard. If you're riding a push bike around here, which was what we used to do as kids, you'd always be getting flat tyres. Now there's 4 remaining structures at Big Bell. There's this building here, which I always thought was the Anglican church, and it may well have been, though there are 2 rooms in it. And you can see the concrete cancers got into a lot of the walls there, and the concrete's just chipped away. And the same in this one here. A lot of work went into building this one. Really interesting to see that it's wire rope that's in the roof, in the wall up there to support it. Then we have the other building over there, which is the Catholic Church. And of course there's the hotel over there, but a bit further down is where the old powerhouse was, and the cooling building. I'm not sure what this was, but it's been painted, coloured. And since we were here in 1969, there's been a lot of damage done to this building. So I believe when we first saw it, there was actually an altar up there, and the religious symbol up at the wall was all intact. Sadly, there was a mining camp somewhere nearby, and they used this as a boozer, which was a bit disappointing because a lot of damage was done to it. And this is most likely the where the railing would have been for people to go to Holy Communion, because in those days you knelt down to receive communion. And this would have been the room where the priest got his stuff ready. I think I remember that this building here, the walls used to be standing at one stage, and they are made of cork, and I believe this was a big cool room or ice making room. So this looks like where the brine would have been, because they didn't have refrigeration like we have today. And the stands obviously are for motors, so those two are part of the motor network for a pump. And another big section of cooling coils. Every trip I do requires a huge amount of research to find out the information that helps make these videos. During this trip I found a bottle which I had not seen before, and on researching the bottle I found out it was made at Tenny's Iceworks and Cordial Factory, which is this particular site. Sadly, this area burnt down 3 days before it opened in 1947. I don't know whether it restarted, but they wouldn't have had bottles made specially for it if they weren't going to use them. Just outside the old hotel is a bit of terrazzo. It's either from a bathroom or a basin that was in the building itself. This is part of the septic system for the hotel. I think that pit runs into this well. There is a pipe just behind that sheet of metal, and one behind me here, and then it goes into this one as well. This was the first view I had of the Big Bell Hotel in 1969 when we drove in here about 10 o'clock at night time. It was lit by the candlelight headlights on a Valiant Regal. We got lost on the way here. It's only 30 k's, but we still managed that. What a beautiful old building. Well, the sun's going down and I'm looking back towards Kew, and you can see two tracks here, one there and one just there. That's where the Roa line comes in, and it's split in two because just here is where the railway station was. This Roa line built from Kew was specifically put in for the Big Bell mine. When I look at the picture of the railway station taken in 1936, it shows the two tracks on the northern side of the station, which means that this is where the platform used to be, and across the way over in there, just that side of western side of the hotel was where the shops used to be. This is interesting. It's a pit lid, and the engraving on it is PMG, Postmaster General. So this would have been where the telephone lines ran to the station, and they would have more than likely come from the post office. I'm sorely tempted to dig this up and see what's in there. Well, this is where the shops used to be. I believe the wooden parts of the buildings were here. There is a step that's buried under that windrow, but then we've got the concrete pads which I believe formed the verandas of those buildings. So there's some bricks that someone's put here. I think the thing is Gart Craig. And that's what the chimneys used to look like. It's a row of houses all close together. And don't forget, I'm walking where the wooden floors used to be and the concrete is the verandas. And this one's interesting because I know who lived here. So the people who lived here were named Bill and Joan Houston. And I know that because one of their descendants has put a sign up at the front to identify this. The interesting thing is that Joan's parents lived near where we're camped. And more interesting than that, when the mine closed in 1955, they moved to Bullfinch and didn't leave there until the mine there closed in 1963. And my mother-in-law and father-in-law lived in Bullfinch at that time, and it's quite possible they knew each other. Well, this location is where Joan Houston's mum and dad used to live, the Blacklocks. I think it was Bob and Tina, who also moved back to Bullfinch when the mine closed.